Today's video is sponsored by Hunter Killer. Well, the weather outside's getting frightful, and cold evenings call for cold cases. But rather than watching yet another true crime documentary on TV, why not make yourself a part of the action instead? Enter Hunter Killer, the ultimate murder mystery game that places you in the shoes of a detective and tasks you with catching an elusive perp. By solving puzzles, decoding ciphers, and examining clues, you'll slowly progress through each box set and narrow down your list of suspects. Hunter Killer's not just a subscription company either. If you're looking for an all-in-one experience, they have plenty available in their store as well, perfect for game nights with family and friends. For me, Hunter Killer's a truly fun and unique way to spend some quality time with the people I care about most. My wife and I have been spending more than a few chilly nights recently, playing through the latest Hunter Killer box set. For us, it's the perfect alternative to another samey night glued to a screen. So, with Christmas just around the corner, now's the best time to treat yourself or that special someone in your life. Head over to hunterkiller.com/lazymasquerade and use promo code LAZY to get $10 off your purchase. Again, take advantage of that $10 discount by going to hunterkiller.com/lazymasquerade and using promo code LAZY and find out if you have what it takes to solve the mystery inside. Jetpacks. They're every kid's fantasy. Who didn't dream about soaring through the skies in one of these things, like our old pal Dexter? The one with the lab. But although jetpacks do indeed exist, they're still quite basic in what they can achieve, and we're a long way off from being able to fly safely alongside airplanes thousands of feet in the sky. Or are we? As you're about to hear, somebody may already be doing just that. On the 30th of August, 2020, the aircraft control tower of Los Angeles International Airport received a rather unusual radio transmission. It was from American Airlines Flight 1997, and the transcript of the message reads as follows. Tower, this is American 1997. We just passed a lone man flying off our left side, maybe 300 yards or so, about our altitude. The aircraft controller must have assumed he had misheard the pilot. But just minutes later, he received another transmission, this time from a Utah-based SkyWest pilot who confirmed the original report. Tower, I think we just saw the guy passing us. I think he's wearing a jetpack. A few months later, an LA Police Department helicopter crew spotted what appeared to be a balloon floating in the skies above Beverly Hills. On closer inspection, the balloon appeared to depict the Nightmare Before Christmas character, Jack Skellington. It had obviously escaped from a Halloween party at some point a month prior, and had been floating above Los Angeles ever since. Since rumours of a jetpack-wearing daredevil were well known amongst aviation circles, the helicopter crew believed they had just solved the mystery. Given the speed at which commercial jetliners travel, it was possible that all of the pilots just got a glance of this balloon and mistook it for a man wearing a jetpack. After all, the balloon's behaviour seemed remarkably similar to that of their mystery jetpacker, so the balloon and jetpack man were probably one and the same. With the mystery of the LA jetpacker believed to be solved, Californians simply went about their business. Yet it wasn't long before another reported jetpack sighting reignited people's faith in the improbable. On the 14th of October, the pilot of China Airlines Flight 006 reported seeing a flying object like a flight suit jetpack at around 6,000 feet. This encounter wasn't nearly as well publicised as the others, but when reached for comment, the pilot very firmly stated that this was not some errant party balloon, insisting that he was experienced enough to know the difference between a cartoon skeleton and an actual human being. Then, on the 21st of December, a flying instructor with the LA-based Sling Pilot Academy was making a routine flight near Palos Verdes and Catalina Island. When he reached around 3,000 feet, he spotted something on the horizon, prompting him to immediately switch on the plane's front-facing video camera. The footage he recorded was posted to the Academy's Instagram account, and apparently confirmed the existence of what some called the LA Iron Man. It appears to show a jetpack, the video's caption reads, but it could also be a drone or some other object. If it really is a guy in a jetpack, then it remains to be seen whether it's a legal test flight, or if it's related to the recent jetpack sightings near LAX. Slowly but surely, what was once a silly rumour was turning out to be very, very credible. Jetpack sightings dwindled around the turn of the new year, and Californians would have to wait until July of 2021 for their next sighting. But by that point, it seems not only had the existence of the jetpack man been confirmed, but he had become something of a normalised nuisance to the pilots of LAX, because on the 28th of July, a pilot reported seeing a flying object that looked a lot like a man flying a jetpack, hovering off the Californian coast at approximately 5,000 feet. One Boeing 747 pilot called into the radio control tower to report a quote-unquote possible jetpack man in sight. The control tower then relayed this information to the pilot of SkyWest Flight 326, asking him if he had seen the unidentified flying object. "We were looking," the pilot responded, "but we did not see Iron Man. I repeat, did not see Iron Man." The control tower then beamed a message out to every pilot in a 100-mile radius, telling them, "All aircraft, use caution for the jetpack. He's just north of the final, around 5,000 feet at Gate C." These sightings become all the more credible once we learn that humanity is already in possession of jetpack technology. However, there are only a handful of companies that actually make jetpacks. One of these companies is owned by former Swiss Air Force pilot Yves Rossi, but his particular prototype requires him to be hoisted in the air by a helicopter or balloon before he can take off. California-based company Jetpack Aviation has created 5 jetpacks that can be worn in a similar manner to backpacks. Yet, as chief executive David Mayman has insisted, none of them are for sale. David added that his company's jetpacks are technically capable of reaching heights of 15,000 feet, but due to fuel constraints, prototypes can only safely reach about 1,000 or 1,500 feet. In his words, "To fly up to 6,000 feet from the ground, to fly around for long enough to be seen by China Airlines and then descend again, you'd be out of fuel. Honestly, it's more likely an electric drone, perhaps one with a mannequin attached. But a functional jetpack at those altitudes? I'd have to see it to believe it." Despite David's skepticism, Thomas Anthony, director of the USC Aviation Safety and Security Program, is considerably less skeptical. "We know for a fact that these things exist, and people in that community will know who has bought these packs," he said. "If someone is doing this, they're going to have to take off and land somewhere, and there's going to be noise. We'll find them eventually." Thomas also went on to say that he doubts the culprit is using an airport to take off, and advised investigators to search secluded industrial spots for clues, such as those around the industrial city of Vernon. Yet as much as the jetpack sightings have captured the public's imagination, Thomas Anthony insists that his interest is more than just recreational. You see, large civilian airliners are designed to withstand getting hit by small objects. But a big, metal object getting sucked into an engine? That's a considerably more dangerous prospect. As one aviation expert said, the engines aren't designed to consume something large and metal, or something with fuel that's going to burn or explode. That could be potentially catastrophic for an airplane. You could potentially have an engine explode and bring down the airliner, and potentially hundreds of people could die. Given the number of eccentric millionaires that call Los Angeles home, it doesn't seem entirely out of the question that a functional jetpack might fall into the hands of a wealthy adrenaline junkie. If you had the time, the money, and the courage, why not experiment with the cutting edge of aviation technology? Still, if there really is a person flying around alongside airplanes, it's not just his own life that he's putting at risk. If you happen to be soaring through LA's blue skies, I hope for your sake you don't encounter the Iron Man. And if you do, that he doesn't get sucked into your plane's engine, or he won't be the only one going out with a bang. With a population of just under 2 million, the North Vietnamese province of Tay Binh is one of the country's most unique and well-known regions. With its name meaning Great Peace, Tay Binh is essentially a distinct, cultural island, separated from its neighbours by the Great Red River Delta. Yet, Tai Bin is also the home of the Tran family, who, in 2002, fell victim to a mysterious and terrifying phenomenon. The Trans were essentially your average rural Vietnamese family, with 4 different generations all living under one roof. The head of the family, 65-year-old Tran Vang Rang, was the father of 8 children, 2 of which had young families of their own. They made their living farming rice, and business was so good that the family were eventually able to construct a second house, right next to their original one. This was a huge point of pride for Tran Van Rang, who saw no greater purpose in life than to care for those who needed him. To the Trans, the future seemed bright. Yet no one could have foreseen the darkness that was about to befall them. According to Tran Quoc Viet, one of the family's eldest sons, the horror began when his younger brother commenced construction of the new family home. Just days after the work started, the family's cattle suddenly became ill. Not long after that, the remaining livestock seemed to collectively lose their minds. Pigs, ducks, chickens, they all went absolutely berserk. They fought amongst themselves and ran into solid concrete walls as if they were terrified by some unseen presence among them. Some noted that the animals appeared to be foaming at the mouth, as if afflicted by rabies. Yet there was simply no way that the rabies virus could spread that quickly between animals that had been sequestered into separate paddocks. One by one, the creatures fell, and within just a matter of hours, all except for one of his younger brother's animals had collapsed and died. This one creature, a duck, seemed to be the only living thing immune to this mysterious plague. Within a few days, the same horrifying fate befell their parents' cattle too. It was nothing short of a complete catastrophe, as almost all of the family's wealth was tied up in their livestock. Yet these animal deaths were only the beginning. The family's eldest son, Tran Van Viet, was probably the most successful of the Tran siblings. He already owned a house of his own, had a 5-year-old son, and was described by all as a healthy young man in the prime of his life. But soon, Tran Van Viet began to suffer from mysterious pains, and after they failed to subside, he was admitted to hospital. Frustrated doctors performed test after test, but they simply couldn't determine what was wrong with him. After a while, Tran Van Viet found he was too weak to work, and soon began to display horrifyingly similar symptoms to those suffered by the livestock. Van began foaming at the mouth and suffering intense seizures, but still his doctors failed to offer a logical explanation. Tragically, Tran Van Viet would pass away in mid-2002, leaving his wife a widow and his child fatherless. His death hit the family hard, and when the same bizarre symptoms were spotted in Van's surviving relatives, the psychological effects were almost as devastating as the physical. Tran Van Rang was haunted by his son's death and began drinking heavily. Yet the more he drank, the more his health deteriorated. And barely a month after Van Viet's death, Van Rang would also fall victim to the same violent seizures that took his son. Now 2 of the Tran family had fallen victim to the same mysterious disease. 3 months after Van Rang's death, and in line with Vietnamese customs, 4 generations of the Tran family travelled out to the cemetery in which their former patriarch was buried, with the intention of performing a memorial ceremony. Among the congregation was Tran Van Ut, as well as Tran Van Ut's young son, who joined in mourning his deceased grandfather. Suddenly, the young boy collapsed, and right in front of his grandfather's grave, the child began to suffer the same heavy convulsions that killed Van Rang. He turned purple before frothing at the mouth, and within just a few minutes of the episode commencing, he was dead. In the days that followed, 3 additional members of the Tran family would be rushed to hospital. The Tran mother, Nguyen Tai Dao, passed away during this period, suffering the same horrific symptoms as her departed son and husband. Tran Van Ut soon joined his son in death, his grief rendering him physically incapable of fighting off whatever terrifying illness had gripped his entire family. Tran Van Ut's wife was completely and utterly heartbroken, and moved away from Tai Bin in an attempt to escape her boundless grief. Yet, when she did, she noticed something curious. her symptoms suddenly disappeared. By that point, word of the Tran family's 5 unexplained deaths had frightened and captivated the Vietnamese nation. Hundreds of medical professionals, police officers, and scientists descended on the family's farm, all hoping to prevent any more unnecessary deaths. For 4 straight weeks, the Vietnamese investigation team would pore over the site of the farm in hopes of solving the deadly mystery. They took water samples, air samples, samples of the food the family had been eating. The team even captured a variety of local wildlife species, vivisecting them in hopes of uncovering the phantom disease. Not even the Tran family themselves were above suspicion, and on more than one occasion, Quoc Viet, the last surviving Tran son, noticed he was being followed by police officers in plain clothes. The plot thickened even further when Pham Thi Tham, Phan Rang's mother and the eldest member of the family, died after being rushed to hospital with the same symptoms as her relatives. During the course of her treatment, the nurses tending to her began suffering the same symptoms of the phantom disease. They complained of aches and pains in almost random places, and one nurse even passed out while on duty. In the end, the authorities' official explanation for the Tran family deaths was pesticide poisoning. Yet it should be noted that there was no trace of any deadly pesticides present in the bodies of the victims, nor on any of the land they owned. What's more, despite the official report blaming a pesticide for the deaths, it fails to name the exact substance which killed off the Tran family. So, with the official explanation for the family's sudden, mysterious, and no doubt painful deaths being viewed as absolute codswallop, many Vietnamese believe that their government is covering something up. This has led to a number of conspiracy theories. The more outlandish revolve around evil snake spirits and other dark presences that supposedly call Tai Bin home. The more grounded center around the idea that the Tran family were little more than guinea pigs in a top-secret chemical weapons test. Many have noted that the family's symptoms seem remarkably similar to some Cold War-era nerve agents. And while this theory may well hold some credence, I think I may have a more feasible alternative. If you remember, the deaths of the family's livestock occurred almost immediately after the construction of their new home commenced. Vietnam is a relatively poor country, and although downtown Saigon might indulge in the same vapid glamour as LA or Paris or London, in the countryside, things are built to last. In all likelihood, the Trans would have wanted their new home to last for generations, maybe even centuries. Therefore, it's safe to assume they wanted to lay solid, concrete foundations. Then, in the course of digging up the earth, maybe even laying a few water pipes, it's entirely possible that the Trans inadvertently struck a mercury deposit, which somehow ended up contaminating their water supply. Just listen to this list of mercury poisoning symptoms: abdominal pain, constipation, headaches, irritability, and tingling in the hands and feet. These line up almost to the letter with the Tran family's symptoms. In severe cases, mercury poisoning can cause memory loss, anemia, seizures, coma, and even death. Again, the anemia lines up with Tran Van Viet being too weak to farm, and Tran Van Ut's son, who suffered a seizure so hard it snuffed out his young life. Another article on mercury poisoning states that, quote-unquote, it causes almost 10% of intellectual disability of otherwise unknown cause and can result in behavioral problems. This accounts for why the Tran family was so mystified by their phantom affliction. It was messing with their brains so much that they didn't know what to look for, or even how to look for it. Then there are the 2 nurses who had aches and bouts of fainting just from being in the presence of the elderly Pham Thi Tham. In high enough concentrations, mercury can indeed contaminate the surrounding air enough to poison someone. As for the Vietnamese government, why would they lie about pesticides being present at the scene? Well, in the most respectful way possible, the Vietnamese government haven't always been the most honest or transparent. It certainly wouldn't be the first time a government minister had covered up a cock-up to save their own skin. What if, many years earlier, some government official had been in charge of a gold mine or was responsible for the burning of coal? Both are activities that release mercury into the environment, but no doubt that same official would be responsible for the cleanup too. But what if it was quicker and easier to quite literally bury the evidence of negligence so the team could finish whatever project they had early? That would mean a promotion for the team leader, maybe even a bonus for the rank and file gold miners. So instead, they covered it up. Granted, it's pure speculation on my part, but little else could explain why the government would lie about such a thing. Well, in January of 2020, the Vietnam Academy of Science and Technology released a paper which concluded that, quote-unquote, the concentration of mercury in the coastal sediment of Tai Binh is 5 times that of other areas. Such pollution is possibly a result of some misuses of mercurial fungicides in that region. Therefore, it's necessary to carry out further studies to fully evaluate the risks of this contamination, for example, about its effects on the food chain. I hope the scientists who produced this paper continue to study Tai Binh's mercury pollution, and I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised to find out that their quest for answers leads them right back to a little farm in the countryside, one where 6 members of the same family tragically lost their lives to the same terrible, mysterious affliction. In all likelihood, someone somewhere up in the chain of command in the Vietnamese government has the blood of the Tran family firmly on their hands. Perhaps the only real mystery is if they'll ever face justice for it. On the 9th of July, 1990, in Augsburg, West Germany, 6 US Army intelligence analysts, all with top-secret security clearances, simply walked off their base and disappeared. In the hours that followed, hundreds of heavily armed military policemen rushed into action, attempting to track the soldiers' movements. Those were the final days of the Cold War. The USSR was teetering on the brink of collapse, and US High Command couldn't rule out the possibility of a rogue KGB snatch squad having kidnapped some of their most valuable assets. The full weight of the German-based American military was thrown behind the search and rescue effort, but barely a trace of the 6 soldiers could be found. It was as if they'd simply vanished into thin air. 5 days later, a highway patrol officer was cruising through the town of Gulf Breeze in the US state of Florida, a place infamous for its supposed UFO sightings. Suddenly, the officer spotted a car with a broken taillight and swiftly commenced a traffic stop. Now standing beside the offending vehicle, the officer noticed that its occupants seemed to be acting extremely skittishly, and he soon found out why. They were the 6 missing soldiers from the 701st Military Intelligence Brigade, having somehow gotten all the way to Florida from Germany, despite being globally wanted men. After their prompt arrest, the 6 men were identified as Specialist Vance Davis of Valley Center, Kansas, Private First Class Michael Wexted of Farson, Wyoming, Private First Class Chris Perlock of Osceola, Wisconsin, Private First Class William Setterberg of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Specialist Kenneth Beeson of Jefferson City, Tennessee, and Sergeant Annette Eccleston of Hartford, Connecticut. At first, it was speculated that the group had engaged in espionage, and if that was the case, then the death penalty would have been on the table. However, the US Army determined that no such crime had been committed, and instead, the group's punishment amounted to little more than a slap on the wrist. For going AWOL and forging leave papers, they were reduced to the lowest rank and forfeited a month's pay, and were honorably discharged just 2 weeks later. After that, rumors of their motives began to flood the media, and the truth proved to be even more bizarre than fiction. Specialist Vance Davis came forward, claiming to be the spokesperson for the group. Then, to the complete disbelief of all who would listen, he told the public that the reason the group had gone AWOL was because, quote-unquote, spirits told them they were needed to help lead the world through an impending cataclysm. What on earth? Davis claimed that the soldiers had contacted the spirits using none other than a Ouija board. "We tried the Ouija board," said Davis. "Someone showed up, and I'm talking spiritually." Davis went on to assert that those same spirits had predicted both the First Gulf War and the 1990 earthquake. Clearly, the group had been in contact with those spirits for a long time. At the end of May, said Davis. We were told by the spirits we might think about trying to get out of the service, because there's going to be some serious things occurring in the next 5 years, and being in the service wouldn't help us grow and become what we were supposed to become. Then, when we asked the board, it just told us, leave. When asked what he was supposed to become, Davis replied that his group were to be teachers, preparing people for the coming world chaos. This will be the changing of the earth, and Jesus is involved, he insisted in a prepared statement. He will come back. The rapture is real. The changes that Vance Davis referred to included earthquakes, volcano eruptions, a devastating gas leak in New York, and riots in every major US city. In an attempt to assure the public, Vance Davis said that, after the thing occurs, the cataclysm will come back out again to help put the pieces back together. Talking with spirits, predicting the end of the world, that's bizarre behavior for anyone. But remember, these were 6 otherwise intelligent men who were all entrusted with top-level government secrets. They didn't meet at some strange club or a cult group. They all met on duty, and for some reason, they all collectively believed the same story, and all of them risked serious consequences by going AWOL to follow their self-assigned mission through. If it was just 1 or 2 of them who believed in all of this, and were secretly using a Ouija board while on duty, then sure, that's plausible. But all 6 of them? Then again, maybe their prediction wasn't so crazy after all. As we trudge into the 3rd decade of the millennia, things do seem to be getting more and more chaotic out there, geopolitically speaking. If things do go south though, I think we're gonna need more than 6 ex-intelligence analysts to pull us out of the fire, don't you? A huge shout out to Sam Riding for writing the script for this one, as well as Robin Mickelson for making the thumbnail. Links to their stuff down below in the description. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to all of my supporters here on YouTube and over on Patreon, especially my biggest supporters. Hamish K, Lydia Glassley, Thomas the Handsome, Alex Greensall, Azrael Warakai, Charlie Lackey, Colin Monsma, Connor Louthan, Crawford K. McDonald, Gina Valera, Expand Ong, Gracearchie, Infamous-senpapi, Kiegan Eady, Leonardo Martinez, Mackenzie Griffin, Mira Lancaster, Monica Mendoza, Nadine, Natalie Escobedo, Peter Loggerech, Philip Westra, Procupidine Nata, Sarah Ramirez, Silas Geist, Damien Bennett, The Deck of Cards, TNS Mum, Taylor&Monica Gruenk, The Only Dorita, Zane, and Ms. Crypto. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, it really helps the channel out. That wraps things up for this one, guys. Be sure to smash that like button or I'll smash you, and you'll be hearing from me again very soon. Until then, you all stay spooky. And remember, the best things happen in the dark.